Let's take a look at the top 10 Flying Eagle and Indian Head cent pennies sold at the Stack's Bowers Spring Showcase auction. Well, a list like this seems practically incomplete without mentioning the 1877 cent, so here goes. But instead of the very rare and well-known circulation strike coin, let's take a look at the proof version of it instead. The exact mintage of the minor proof coins for this era was not exactly recorded. Today, it seems likely that around 900 to 1,500 coins were struck, although certainly far fewer than those survived. This example is graded as proof 64 red and brown and managed to raise $4,800 at auction. The 1904 proof Indian Head cent has a mintage of 1,817 coins throughout the year. One of the noteworthy things about this issue is that every proof coin is known with a misplaced date on the obverse of the coin. It's not exactly dramatic, but is still a clear identifying feature. A remnant of the top rounding of the original 9 can be seen inside the top of two dentals below the 9 of the date. Also, the dental just towards the left of the 1 in the date is slightly misshapen, with a slanted top. The coin was graded by PCGS as proof 66 red-brown, with some truly wild iridescent toning, for which it raised $5,280 at auction. In 1889, the superintendent of the Philadelphia Mint was instructed to refuse requests for newly minted minor coins, pennies and nickels primarily, if that merchant was also located inside a city with a federal sub-treasury that already had older but still current coins on hand. This was an attempt to limit the unnecessary mintage of these coins, which still resulted in a mintage of 48,866,025 coins for the Indian Head cent in 1889. This example survives today in a grade of MS66 red from CACG, and at auction it was sold for $7,200. By 1908, it had become known that a redesign of the cent coin was on the way. Of course, this would become the Lincoln cent in late 1909. However, as early as 1906, an article in the May edition of the Numismatist speculated on this particular subject. An excerpt from the article reads, and I quote, "A change in the design of the small bronze cent, which has made an appearance in each year since its adoption in 1864, is being considered. The contemplated change is the outcome of the agitation in favor of a new design in the United States coins in all denominations." It then goes on to further say that never in the history of this country has it been represented by a less artistic set of coins. Perhaps in anticipation of this change, the mintage for the 1908 penny has slowed to 32 million coins, less than a third of the previous years by comparison. This example is graded as MS67 red by NGC and at auction was sold for $8,100. 1906 was the first year in quite some time that the Philadelphia Mint once again struck pennies from planchets that were produced in-house. This was done largely from reclaimed, uncurrent coinage removed from circulation. This would have included large cents, copper-nickel cents, earlier dated bronze cents, and 2-cent pieces, with the balance of the 96 million coin mintage then being struck from ready-made coining blanks purchased from outside contractors. This MS67 red coin from NGC was sold at auction for $8,400. Apart from its general rarity, one of the most frustrating things about the 1864 no-L proof Indian head penny is that we also don't really know how many coins were even minted to begin with. Estimates over the years have varied between 150 and 300 coins. Given its market availability today, I'd say that probably towards the higher end of that scale is more accurate. But again, without reliable source documentation, it's hard to say for sure. This immaculate and boldly toned example of this coin was graded by PCGS as MS66 plus red brown and sold at auction for $8,400. When the new small cent was initially released to the public in 1857 in the guise of the Flying Eagle cent, it was the cause of quite some excitement. The Philadelphia Mint even set up 2 stations in the yard of the mint to exchange the new coins. 2 long lines of eagerly awaiting citizens who wanted to be the first to get their hands on the new small-size cent coins. It might seem a little inane or even puerile to modern eyes, but let me ask you, is it really any different from waiting in line for the new iPhone? I mean, if given the choice, I certainly know in which queue I'd rather be standing. This example is graded as MS66 by CACG, and at auction, it was sold for $9,000. The 1886 Indian head cent is largely divided into 2 varieties, where the obverse hub was altered to lower the relief and reduce the width of Liberty's portrait from the original Type 1 design. No doubt the work of Charles Barber, although there's no substantive proof that, at least I'm aware of, that definitively proves this assertion. The Type 2 obverse is further then distinguished by the removal of the extra outlines of the letters on the legend of United States of America, and the lack of a gap between the lower hair curl and the bottom ribbon. The most widely known feature of this obverse hub, however, is the lowermost feather in Liberty's headdress pointing in between the letters of C and A in America. This almost unbelievably high-grade example of the Type 2 coin is graded as MS66 red by CACG, and when it passed over the auction block was sold for $10,200. An interesting footnote on the 1902 Indian head cent is that there was apparently a bit of an endemic concerning counterfeit coins, specifically counterfeit cents, during this era. The Mint Director's report for the year makes note of almost 97,000 such forgeries being confiscated by the Treasury Department. The current example, fortunately, appears to be genuine, with all its traditional hallmarks. An stunning example at that, graded by CACG as MS67 red, and at auction it managed to raise no less than $11,400. The 1856 Flying Eagle cent was first produced as a pattern coin to demonstrate to key decision-makers in both Congress and the US Mint what a small cent coin might look like, to try and convince them to approve legislation to replace the larger cent coins, which had become both too unwieldy for everyday commerce and far too expensive for the Mint to produce at scale, thanks in large part to the ever-rising price of copper. Now, these efforts were successful, perhaps a little too successful, as the coin was still being struck as late as 1860, this time exclusively for sale to the numismatic market to fill demand from the growing coin-collecting community. As a result, the exact mintage of the 1856 Flying Eagle cent is not exactly known, but is estimated to be anywhere between 1,000 and 1,500 coins. This beautiful example is today graded by PCGS as proof 65+, and by the auction's final call had sold for $44,000. $4,400. Subscribe to WNN and feel free to watch another video about the Lincoln cents that sold at the same auction right here next. For the World Numismatic News, I am Numisman saying thank you for watching, keep collecting, and have a fantastic day.